Let's pick up the pace. Something's wrong out there.
Agreed.
Watch the horizon. Stay alert.
He had stopped believing in love a long time ago. The cowboy lived alone on the edge of the desert, where days felt longer and nights carried nothing but silence. No visitors. No letters. No reason to hope. After everything he lost, he decided it was better to feel nothing at all than to feel pain again. But one evening, everything changed. A woman appeared on the horizon. A wild Apache woman, fearless and uninvited, walking straight into his lonely world as if she belonged there. She did not ask for permission. She did not turn away from his cold silence. And the strange part was, he could not look away from her. Because in that moment, the cowboy did not know it yet, but his life was about to change forever. The desert had a way of swallowing sound. Not all at once, but slowly, as if it waited for everything living to grow tired before taking it. Even the wind seemed careful out here, brushing across dry land and faded fences like it did not want to disturb anything that no longer belonged to the world. At the far edge of that endless emptiness stood a small wooden house. It was worn down by time but still standing, like something that had learned how to survive without asking for help. Around it stretched open land, a few broken fence lines, and a corral that held a single horse. And inside that house lived a man who had stopped speaking to the world. He was once known in nearby towns. Not famous, not important in any grand way, but familiar. The kind of man people greeted by name when he rode in for supplies. The kind who listened more than he spoke but still had a place among others. That life had ended years ago. No one agreed on the reason. Some said he lost people he cared about. Others said he was involved in something he could not escape. A few believed he simply reached a point where he no longer wanted to belong anywhere. He never corrected any of them. It was easier that way. Now his days followed the same pattern without change. He woke before sunrise. He checked the horse even when there was no reason to. He walked the fence line slowly, as if measuring time with his steps. He repaired things that did not need repair. Not because there was work to do, but because stillness was worse. Stillness brought memories. And memories were something he did not trust anymore. There were moments, late in the day, when he would stop what he was doing and just stand in place, looking out at the horizon. His face would harden slightly, as if he was listening to something no one else could hear. Then he would move again, quickly, like he had decided not to follow whatever had called him. He did not welcome visitors. There were no paths leading to his door anymore, only faint trails made by wind and time. People had learned to stay away. Not because he had warned them, but because something about him made it clear he did not want to be found. Years passed like that. Quiet. Repetitive. Heavy in a way that was hard to explain. But beneath all of it, there was something he never admitted, even to himself. He was not free. He was only hidden. That difference mattered more than he wanted it to. On most days, he could almost forget there was a world beyond his land. Almost believe that this was all there was. A house. A horse. A sky that never ended. But the desert has a way of reminding people that nothing stays sealed forever. One evening, as the sun lowered and the land turned gold and shadow, the cowboy stood near the corral, tightening a loose rope that did not need tightening. That was when he noticed something unusual. Far away, near the faint line where road and earth met, there was movement. At first, he thought it was heat playing tricks on his eyes. Then the shape became clearer. A person. Walking alone. Straight toward his land. And in that moment, without knowing why, the cowboy felt something he had not felt in a very long time. A sense that the silence he had built was about to end. The cowboy stood still as the figure came closer. At first, he told himself it was a traveler who had lost direction. People sometimes made mistakes in the desert. The land looked simple from a distance, but it could confuse even those who thought they knew it well. But as the figure moved forward, that explanation began to fall apart. She was not searching. She was not hesitating. She was walking as if she already knew where she was going. The cowboy stepped away from the corral and walked slowly toward the front of his house. His eyes stayed fixed on her, narrowing slightly as the distance between them grew smaller. No one came here. Not anymore. When she reached the edge of his fence line, she stopped. The wind moved between them, lifting dust from the ground and carrying it in thin waves across the open space. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The cowboy studied her carefully. She looked young, but not inexperienced. Her clothes were simple and worn from travel, not from poverty but from use. She carried nothing visible except what she needed to walk. No horse, no pack animal nearby. That alone made him uneasy. "You are far from any road," he said at last. His voice sounded strange to his own ears, as if it belonged to someone who had not spoken in a long time. The woman looked at the house behind him before answering. "Roads are not the only way to arrive," she said. The cowboy frowned slightly. "There is nothing here for you." "That depends on what you are looking for," she replied. He did not like that answer. His hand rested near his belt without thinking, more from habit than intention. He had not needed to defend himself in years, but old habits did not disappear easily. "You should turn around," he said. "This land is not open to strangers." She did not move. Instead, she stepped closer. Not crossing the fence, but closing the distance just enough to make her presence harder to ignore. "I am not a stranger," she said. The cowboy let out a short breath, almost a laugh, but without humor. "That is not possible." Her eyes stayed on him. "I was told you would say that." That sentence made something tighten in his chest. He did not respond right away. The wind grew quieter, as if even it was listening. Finally, he asked, "Told by who?" She did not answer immediately. Instead, she looked toward the open desert behind him, then back at the house, as if measuring something unseen. "When someone cannot live with their past," she said softly, "they often believe they are alone in it." The cowboy's expression hardened. "You do not know anything about me." A pause followed. Then she spoke again, her voice steady. "I know you once made a choice that you cannot forget." The words landed too cleanly. Not like an accusation. Like a fact that had already been written long ago. The cowboy took a slow step forward, his patience thinning. "You need to leave," he said again, firmer this time. But she did not step back. Instead, she said something that made him stop completely. "I am not here to take anything from you," she said. "I am here because you have been alone long enough." For a moment, the desert felt even larger than before. And the cowboy, standing at the edge of his own land, realized that for the first time in years, someone had not come here by accident. She had come for him. The cowboy did not speak for a long moment. He stood near the fence line, staring at the woman as if silence alone could push her away. But she remained where she was, calm and steady, like she had all the time in the world. "You are making a mistake," he said finally. "No," she replied. "I am not." His jaw tightened. "You do not know me. You do not know what you are talking about." For the first time, something in her expression softened, not with doubt, but with understanding. "I know more than you think," she said. That answer made him uneasy in a way he could not explain. He turned slightly, looking toward the empty land behind him, as if the desert might offer him a way out of the conversation. But there was nothing there except heat, dust, and the long stretch of years he had spent trying not to remember. "I do not care what stories you have heard," he said. "Whatever you think you know, it is wrong." She stepped closer to the fence, but still did not cross it. "I did not come here to argue," she said. "I came because you cannot stay hidden forever." The cowboy let out a slow breath, frustration rising now. "I am not hiding," he said. But even as he said it, something inside him reacted. A flicker. A memory he had spent years pressing down. A night he refused to revisit. The firelight. The shouting. The confusion. A moment where everything had moved too fast and too far to stop. His expression changed slightly, though he tried to control it. The woman noticed. "You remember," she said quietly. His voice lowered. "Stop talking like you know my life." "I do not need to know everything," she replied. "Only enough to know you are still carrying it." The cowboy took a step back, as if distance could help him think clearly. "I made my peace," he said. "No," she said gently. "You made silence." That word stayed in the air longer than anything else. Silence. It was not an accusation. It was not even harsh. But it felt accurate in a way he did not want to accept. He looked at her again, this time more carefully, searching for an explanation, a reason, anything that made sense. "Why are you really here?" he asked. She met his gaze without hesitation. "Because I am part of what you left behind," she said. And for the first time since she arrived, the cowboy had no immediate answer. The sky had begun to darken when the cowboy finally stopped pretending to work. The rope in his hands was already fixed. The gate did not need repair. The small tasks he had used to steady himself were no longer enough to keep his thoughts in place. He stood near the fire pit outside his house, watching the woman sit a short distance away. She had not moved much since their last exchange. She simply waited, as if patience was the only thing she needed. The desert around them grew colder, the heat of the day slipping away into quiet air. "You are still here," he said at last. "I said I would be," she replied. He shook his head slightly. "Most people would have left by now." "I am not most people." That answer would have annoyed him once. Now it only left him tired. He sat down across from her, keeping a careful distance between them. The fire between them had not yet fully caught, only a few small flames struggling against the wind. For a long time, neither of them spoke. Then the cowboy said quietly, "People come here sometimes. They ask questions. They think they can fix things by forcing them open." She nodded slightly. "And you send them away?" "Yes." "Why?" He looked at the fire. "Because there is nothing to fix." She did not respond right away. When she finally spoke, her voice was softer than before. "That is not true," she said. The cowboy clenched his jaw but did not argue immediately. Instead, he stared into the small flames as they grew stronger. "You do not understand what I did," he said at last. "I do not need to see it," she replied. "I can see what it did to you." That landed differently. He looked up at her, frustration mixing with something heavier. "You think I want this," he said. "You think I chose to live like this because it is easy?" "No," she said. "I think you chose it because it felt safer than facing what happened." The words were calm, but they carried weight. The cowboy looked away again. For a moment, the only sound was the wind moving across the land. Then he spoke, quieter now. "There was a night," he said. "It was chaos. Fear. Everyone thought they were protecting something. I was one of them." He stopped, his hands tightening slightly. "And after that night, nothing was the same." The woman did not interrupt. He continued, though it felt like pulling something heavy out of a place it had been locked away. "I told myself it was not my fault," he said. "I told myself I had no choice. But that never stayed true for long." Silence followed. When he finally looked at her again, his voice was lower. "I stayed away from everything because I thought distance would make it smaller." The woman watched him carefully. "And did it?" she asked. He did not answer right away. Because the truth was already clear. It had not become smaller. It had only become part of him. And for the first time, he did not have a way to deny it. Morning came without ceremony. No sudden change in the land. No clear sign that anything had shifted. The desert looked the same as it always had, wide and quiet, stretching into a horizon that seemed to go on forever. But the cowboy felt different when he stepped outside. He stood for a moment near the doorway of his house, looking out across the open land. The wind moved slowly through the corral. The horse shifted its weight and exhaled, unbothered by the presence of time or memory. The woman was still there, sitting near the edge of the fire pit, watching the first light spread across the ground. The cowboy noticed that she had not treated the night as something unusual. No fear, no tension. As if staying had always been part of her intention. He walked toward her slowly. "You did not leave," he said. She looked up at him. "Neither did you." He gave a faint nod, as if acknowledging something simple but important. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The air felt different in a way he could not explain. Not lighter. Not heavier. Just more open. Finally, he said, "I do not know what happens now." The woman stood up slowly, brushing dust from her hands. "You are not supposed to know yet," she said. He frowned slightly. "That does not help me." "It is not meant to help," she replied. "It is meant to be honest." He looked away toward the horizon again. For years, he had believed that life was something that had already closed itself off from him. That whatever came next was only repetition of what had already passed. But standing there now, that belief felt less certain. "I spent too long alone," he said quietly. The woman nodded once. "Yes." He let out a slow breath. "I thought I was protecting myself." "You were surviving," she corrected. "There is a difference." That made him pause. Surviving. It was not a word he had used for himself before. It sounded too simple for what he had lived through, yet somehow more accurate than anything else. He looked at her again, this time without the distance he had kept before. "Why did you really come here?" he asked. She did not answer immediately. Instead, she looked across the land, as if remembering something that could not be seen. "When I was younger," she said, "there was a moment when I believed I had been forgotten. That no one would ever care what happened to me." The cowboy listened without interrupting. "But someone did remember," she continued. "Someone who should have had no reason to. Someone who carried responsibility for something I did not understand at the time." She turned back to him. "That person was you." The words landed quietly, but completely. The cowboy did not respond at once. He felt something shift inside him, not sharply, but deeply, like something long buried had finally been acknowledged without anger attached to it. "I did not come here to repay anything," she said. "I came because you stopped living long before you stopped breathing." He lowered his gaze slightly. For the first time in years, he did not have a response prepared. The silence between them did not feel empty anymore. It felt shared. After a while, he spoke again, his voice quieter than before. "I do not know how to return to the world," he said. The woman looked at him with steady calm. "Then do not return all at once," she said. "Just take one step where there was none before." He looked at the open land ahead of him. The same land he had seen every day for years. But now, it did not feel like an ending place. It felt like something that could be walked through again. And for the first time in a long time, the cowboy did not turn away from the idea of tomorrow. The cowboy finally stepped out of his silence, not because the past disappeared, but because he chose to face it. And sometimes, that is how healing begins. If this story moved you, like this video, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments.